Hello there, and welcome to my series, I Am Woman, a Biblical Perspective. I'm your host, Mother K, and today we begin a new chapter, episode 2, where we dive into the actual woman of the Bible, from A all the way down to Z. We are indeed in for an epic journey. By the way, if you do hear someone in the back, that's my assistant. Yes, that's my little beauty that keeps me on my P's and Q's, even when I am doing this series. One day you may meet him. So if you did hear him in the back, be sure to send me 3 purple hearts at the end of this episode. So today, episode 2, we discuss Abigail, Sister Abigail. Yes, she was the wife of Nabal or Nabal, and also she was also the wife of King David. But before your naughty little heads spring out of control, we would explain just how this one woman was a helpmeet to 2 remarkable men, and just how she was able to understand her assignment and execute it. Let's go. Now, one thing I would like you to know about me is that, or maybe you would have discovered it, I like to take my time in these discussions because I would like persons who are tuned in to really savor and grasp every single piece of knowledge that would come to their ear. So oftentimes you would find, as we go along in the series, I would break up the episodes into smaller parts. In that way, I don't rush through anything, and it will also give you that reflection time, because it is important for us as women to be able to reflect. We are already deep thinkers, and oftentimes when we get that opportunity to deeply put our thoughts into a study, or put that which we are studying into our thoughts, that is where healing comes. That is where a sense of love, a sense of calm and reassurance comes, that we have got this. That calm and reassurance that says it won't always be like this. but sooner or later things will turn in your favor. God will turn around things. And that comes when we are able to meditate. So for this reason, I tend not to rush through my topics because I'm not going anywhere anytime soon unless the Father would have me. So I'm here and we are in this journey together, and we're gonna take it step by step, higher and higher. Amen. So we're speaking about Abigail today. And where can we learn of such a woman of understanding, a woman of discernment, a woman of power and humility, who also operated in a ministry of peace? Where do we learn about these characteristics? Sweethearts, we can find out about Abigail in 1 Samuel. Now my little helper. 1 Samuel. You saying hi? Are you saying hi? 1 Samuel. Are you saying hi? Say hi. 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 Send a kiss. Send a kiss. Alright. In 1 Samuel chapter 25. It is an extremely long chapter. Come and say hi down here. Come say hi down here. Come. It is an extremely long chapter. But we would position ourselves to stick to the areas of the chapter that really plugs in to the characteristics of our dear sister Abigail. Abigail was known to be a woman of understanding. Read with me 1 Samuel chapter 25 verses 3. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. So let me tell you something. Right then and there, to the Abigails among us, whether by name or by spirit, because sometimes we carry the spirit or things that would have happened. We go through the same thing. So that is what I mean by carrying the spirit, because we were taught in the Bible that there is nothing new under the sun. So sometimes when we believe that we are the only persons going through things, I'm here to tell you that those that walked before us went through similar things. Those that walked before the ones that walked before us, those that walk before the ones that walk before the ones that walk before the ones times 1,000 would have shared similar experiences. And you know, that is something that gives us as women or even men strength. Just to know that there is someone that could say, I understand what you're going through. I went through something similar. And because of the understanding that that person would bear towards you, that gives you strength. But to live in a world where sometimes people behave like they just do not understand. Like, for instance, I often would counsel and tell people, especially those who may have lost a loved one, that at times, depending on who that loved one is, the grief may last a little longer as opposed to a different relative. And sometimes people can be so callous and they can be so cold that you go through a grieving period, because even in the Bible, the Lord allows or has spoken of a 40-day grief period, right? But some people, because of their dire attachment to that loved one, their grief period is extended. And then we have some cool people, like they would come into the picture and they would be like, you still grieving? But what he used to do for you, what she used to do for you, get over that. It have more where that come from. And I believe these are people that lack understanding. Because let me tell you something. No matter the influence someone has on your life, good influences or bad influences, it is a part of your growth. It is a part of your learning. It is a part of you becoming who you were designed to be. Nobody does you anything by guess or mistake. Neither does anybody cross your path, your life's path, by accident. And why am I saying this? Because God said in His Word that all things, that would mean the things could be good, the things could be bad. They come together for the good of them that love the Lord. So the Bible says to us in chapter 3 that Abigail was first the wife of Nabal. And it says that Nabal was an evil man. He was of the house of Caleb. We want to go into a bit of the background of Nabal, because maybe some of us may be in a relationship with a Nabal. And it requires us who may be in such a relationship or a union to exercise that strong characteristic of understanding of a beautiful countenance despite the uglies that you are facing. Let's speak a little bit about Nabal. Nabal, Abigail's first husband, an ungrateful, rude, bad-tempered, unfriendly man. The Bible refers to Nabal as churlish. That's the meaning of churlish. Churlish, rude, ungrateful. If we were to give it a modern day word, we would say disrespectful, evil man. Yes, Abigail was married to this man who was a Calebite, and he was the owner of massive land in the country of Judea. And his wealth, he was wealthy, and perhaps his wealth, as some who come in contact with wealth or too much wealth, defined his character. So he was very, 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 very distasteful as a man. Can you identify? I unfortunately am not married to a Nabal, but I know that there are many who may be, and this might just be the message for you, because you may be that Abigail struggling to exist around a companion who is ungrateful, who is unfriendly, who is rude, disrespectful, and you're required to have understanding as long as that union exists. You're required to have a beautiful countenance. You know, oftentimes a woman is expected that she's going through so much, and she still has to find within to show the world or others. Some say put on an act, but women of God, or women that understands their design and what they were designed to do, they need not put on an act, but they need to understand that part of Abigail where she was able to endure through understanding, through wisdom. She was able to face her challenge, her biggest challenge being her husband and the way he would behave. Like, for example, because this man Nabal was so wealthy, and as I expressed a little while ago, his wealth caused him to own a lot of land and livestock and flocks, you understand? But he owned it, but at that time he didn't have a security system in place. So David, King David, or at that time David, though he was anointed as king at a young age, he had a lot of processes to go through to wear that crown. But in that time, the rulership was under King Saul. And because King Saul had sinned against the Lord, the prophet Samuel would have told him that his kingdom would be rent from him, and David, who, mind you, was at a point in time the understudy of King Saul, who defended King Saul against Goliath and the Philistines, but had to find himself running from King Saul, because when King Saul found out that that young man would one day take your place, he sought to take his life. So David and all those that believed in the prophecy, his army, would have been hiding out in the wilderness. And while looking for places to hide, David would have come into contact with Nabal, and recognizing Nabal's wealth, David, extended an olive branch and said to Nabal, let me and my men help protect your estate. We'll protect it from thieves, because it was goats, sheep, you name it. And Nabal agreed, because just as a man loves his riches, he loves his riches being around him for eternity. And this is something that a lot of wealthy people don't understand, that one day we all go. I'm not wealthy, but they would have to go. I'm contented. And they would have to leave those riches, for they cannot take it to the grave with them. So Nabal, of course, yes, sure, you have the capacity of man, so yes, guard my things. And they did it diligently, and they did it fervently. But there came a time after they would have finished that mission of guarding Nabal's estate, that David, when he would have had to go on to other missions, would have sent back to Nabal in a point of time of need for food and for compensation for his men, because remember, they out there in the wilderness and they roaming from place to place, hiding, from King Saul. And do you know what Nabal did? Nabal blatantly, ungratefully refused to assist David and his men. He even went so far as asking, who's the son of Jesse? As if he suffered some kind of temporary amnesia. And he stood firm and stood his ground. A man having so much was so cold in his reasoning to assist someone who assisted him when he was in need. But due to the understanding nature and the ability of his wife Abigail to exercise wisdom in that situation. She really did manifest her beautiful countenance with what she did to rectify that situation. So the boss neighbor said no, and what he forgot is that the men that were under David's charge, they were not just guards, but they were fighters. They were of a great army, trained in combat. And immediately when David got the message that Nabal said no and began to operate as David was nothing, and all his efforts, all the efforts of his men meant nothing. You know, men have a way. They spring in one time into revenge mode. So David decided, if I was guarding you, me and my army, obviously David would have known if Nabal was a match for him and his team in combat. So David already knew, if I had to fill that space back then, it's because you didn't have an army. You had no one to protect you. And it's the same now. So I am going to move in with my mighty men, and I am going to destroy you, Nabal. So David told the men, we're going to get Nabal, because we will not tolerate this level of disrespect. Does it sound familiar in this dispensation? But Abigail, oh, 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 that beautiful lady, Abigail, and that challenge that came into her environment, that challenge, that situation, it didn't determine her character, you know. That didn't change her character, because she was already a woman, as chapter 3 said, a woman of good understanding. I love when the Bible is able to put adjectives in front of nouns. In this case, good understanding, because we're learning there that there might be people, men, women, that have understanding, you know, but the understanding ain't too good. And you just know that the understanding ain't too good, because they just tell you, yeah, understand, you know. But the advice that follows after, it doesn't be good advice. Or they just say, yeah, they understand, because they just fed up with you and you're crying, and fed up with you and you're expressing. So just to throw you off, they tell you, yeah, understand. But the people with good understanding are persons who really take time out to listen to you. And even if they may not have the right advice, they just let you know that I am here. If you just need to get it out, my ears are always open. So Abigail sprung into action. So if we read on with me, right? Where Abigail was able to bring peace to this situation. So read on with me to 1 Samuel chapter 25, verses 14 to 17. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, Behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he railed on them. But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything as long as we were conversant with them when we were in the fields. They were a wall unto us both by night and day, all the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now therefore know and consider what thou wilt do, for the evil is determined against our master and against all of the household, for he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him. Then Abigail, we're reading 118. Then Abigail took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine and live sheep, ready dressed, and 5 measures of parched corn, and 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on asses. 19, we continuing. And she said unto her servants, Go on before me. Behold, I come after you. But she told not her husband, Nabal. And it was so. She rode on the ass, and she came down by the covert of the hill. And behold, David and his men came down against her, and she met them. Come on, let's read on. It's exciting. 21. Now David had said, Surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow had in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him. And he had required evil for good. 22. So and more also do God unto the enemies of David, if I leave all that pertain to him by the morning light, any that pisseth against the wall. And when Abigail saw David, she hasted and lighted off the ass, and fell before David on her face, and bowed to the ground, and fell at his feet, and said, Upon me, my Lord, upon me, let this iniquity be, and let thy handmaid, I pray thee, speak in thy audience, and hear the words of thine handmaid. Let not my Lord, I pray thee, regard this man of Belial, even Nabal. For as His name is so. So is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, thine handmaid. So we continue in 25. We stopped at, and but I, thine handmaid, saw not the young men of my Lord, whom thou didst send. Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, seeing the Lord had withholden thee from coming to shed blood, and from avenging thyself with thine own hand, now let thine enemies and they that seek evil to my Lord be as Nabal. And now this blessing which thine handmaid had brought unto my Lord, let it even be given unto the young men that follow my Lord. I pray thee, forgive the trespass of thine handmaid, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house, because my Lord fighteth the battles of thee, Lord, and evil had not been found in thee after 3 days. Yet a man is risen to pursue thee and seek thy soul, but the soul of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life with the Lord thy God, and the souls of thine enemies, them shall he sling out as out of the middle of the sling. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord shall have done to my Lord according to all the good he hath spoken concerning thee, and shall have appointed thee ruler over Israel, that this shall be no grief unto thee, nor offense of heart unto my Lord, either that thou hast shed blood, causeless, or that my Lord had avenged himself. But when the Lord have dealt well with my Lord, then remember thy handmaiden. And David said to Abigail, Blessed, blessed be the Lord God of Israel, which sent thee on this day to meet me, and blessed be thy advice, and blessed be thou which hast kept me this day from coming to shed blood, and from avenging myself with my own hand. Blessed, beloved, Abigail applied discernment. Abigail applied understanding. Abigail was faced with a challenge, and because of what she was created to be, a helpmeet to her husband, she understood, going back to our origin, what was the suitable help needed, though her husband was disrespectful, was evil, was ungrateful, and she applied it. Abigail used her emotion. We're going back to our purpose, the part of us that they find, very emotional, very extra. And she used that in the situation and applied it. She applied the wisdom part of her to be able to bring peace to that situation. She pleaded before the Lord, and within her plea, she became prophetic. She became prophetic. She began to prophesy unto David that this matter doesn't warrant you having to shed blood, because the enemies that would come when you are crowned as King of Israel, you need to preserve that energy, Lord, because he was Lord. But she told him what the Lord of Lords expected of him in his behavior. So she was able to tell him, you see, this situation with Nabal, you don't need to end this situation through bloodshed, because my Lord, your Lord wants you to know that one day you will sit in the high seat, and when you sit in that high seat, there are going to be enemies that are going to be coming, and they too would be coming to seek your death and to see your blood spilled, and it's then you would need to apply that kind of revenge. But as for now, consider, my Lord, that the meaning of my husband's name is fool. He is foolish. He's a foolish man, and in that foolishness, regard not what he did as an action unto bloodshed, but regard it today as a foolish man. And she pleaded. And brethren, she expressed herself, but she expressed herself humble. She didn't run in and rank up, but she went in with a peace offering. The Bible labeled that she went with food. She loaded asses with food, and she also with cattle. Sometimes when you're going to the men, you need to understand, as you are about to put your petition before them, sometimes you need to go with a peace offering. You may not be the wrong one, but you are the one that God has put in his life to apply suitable help. So maybe you can cook a beautiful dinner, or maybe you can suggest, let us go out, and you make sure that you offer a peace offering, and then you put your petition out in a humble way, but within the humility, you boost his ego. You let him know that, oh honey, I love you, you're a good man. And at times, we don't always see eye to eye. You apply wisdom in humility. It does not always have to turn out into an argument. Woman, God didn't create us to argue. He created us, as I'm reading through Abigail's petition, to plead. To plead. That's the difference. The men argue, but we ought to petition and plead. And because of that, there were some blessings that were pronounced on Abigail's life from the future king. So she not only prophesied on what kind of ruler he would be, but he in turn, God administered a prophetic blessing over her life. Beloved, I cannot wait to get into the continuation of this episode of Abigail. Tune in next week. Let's discuss the double blessing that was given to her. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to join my Q&A.